Brats, the beautiful pain in our asses, or are we the pain in theirs? To be determined. Today, you're going to learn the secrets to taming brats, effective strategies and mindsets for being a brat tamer, and some example punishments that you can give brats. I'm Brandon the Dom. Let's dive in. So if you've spent any time in the BDSM scene, I'm sure that at some point you've come across a brat, a person that basically subscribes to the ideology that rules should be broken. These wonderful submissives take pleasure in being mischievous, naughty, and cheeky with their partner, which may include a healthy flirting to roast ratio, talking back when they're told what to do, or refusing to follow orders in order to receive attention or punishments. Now, sometimes brats can be taken as being difficult, but if you take the time to dig into their desires behind the brattiness, you'll often find that they're very sweet, very caring, and very subby. Before we dive into why submissives like to brat and how to brat tame them, let's talk about a few misconceptions. Just because brats are one of the most misconstrued submissives. One misconception is brats are not true submissives. Just because they don't eagerly submit like other submissives might, does not mean that they're not submissive. Just like every other submissive, they don't want to be in control. They just want to know that you can truly handle them and be reminded of their place. Another misconception is that brats want to be in DDLG dynamics. And if you're not sure what a DDLG dynamic is, it's basically a daddy dom little girl dynamic. Not every brat identifies as a little or wants to be in a DDLG dynamic. It's the motivation behind their bratting that will change the tone and behavior. Some may want a daddy that they can playfully push back to get a spanking, but others may just enjoy the tussle and want a dom that's going to completely overtake them. There's also the misconception that you can't punish a brat because they're unpunishable. In fact, they're seeking punishment. I mean, if you think about it this way, if a brat wants punishment, doesn't giving that defeat the entire purpose of a punishment in the first place? And this, my friend, is where you're going to need to learn your brat in specific and find out which acts they enjoy and what type of punishments they enjoy, often being called punishments at that point, and which acts they don't enjoy, so that you can discern between the two and punishments actually are punishments. There's also the misconception that you need to break a brat. And this is a dangerous line of thinking because it means you're trying to change a fundamental part of their personality and how they like to enjoy their submission. You don't need to change them, but you do need to learn how to be flexible, witty, and resourceful in your dominance. If brats are not for you and you think that you need to change them, just don't play with them. Brats really are just like any other submissive in the fact that they want to only submit to a dom that they truly respect. The catch is that dom is going to have to work for that respect. And for that, you're going to need the tools of a brat tamer. Someone who enjoys the satisfaction of earning the trust and respect of that brat, taking responsibility for that, and managing or exerting your will over her. If you only take one thing away from this video, I want you to understand the fundamental rule for brat taming. Don't take their bratting at face value, and instead understand their motivations behind the bratting. What need are they trying to fulfill through their bratty behavior? If you deliver to that, then you'll have putty in your hands. With this in mind, let's talk about why submissives brat. When you were a child and you acted out with misbehavior, were you ever called a brat? If so, think back to why you were using that bratty behavior. Most likely, you were trying to get your parents' attention directed at something, either at the rules that you thought were bullshit, the boundaries that you needed to test to make sure that they were actually boundaries, or just to have them pay attention to you and you alone. Even when your parents went to reprimand you for your misbehavior, them doing that showed care and love towards you. It showed that they cared enough to actually discipline you. Submissive brats are very similar. If the brat behaves badly, but is ultimately overcome and absolved by the dom, they see that perseverance as hot evidence that the dom actually desires them. The punishment as a result of brattiness reaffirms to the submissive that the dom actually loves them. It shows that their actions are actually being monitored and there are repercussions for negative behaviors. It shows that somebody cares enough about them to want to actually correct their behavior. Submissive don't brat because they don't know how to behave. They are brats because they crave your attention. They crave feeling your love and care, and getting that through the form of behavior correction. However, in my experience, there's a little bit of further nuance depending on their behavior. I'm going to give you some sort of archetypes of brats, and these are not colloquial terms that are usually used in the scene, but they're a good breakdown that helps me to understand the why behind their bratting behavior. So the first type of brat you might run across is the defensive brat. She basically labels herself as bratty as a defense mechanism in order to not get bulldozed by shitty guys and sniff out fake doms. She may even be a little sassy and have a bit of a mouth on her. But if you show up confident and unmoved by her, she usually drops the act pretty quickly and is a very good girl. Usually, this person is going to verbally test you, for which you need to return being witty, teasing, and confident enough to put her ego in check. The second type you're likely to run into is the playful brat. These women like to be bratty just for the fun of it, and they don't really mean anything behind it. It's a kink like any other, and they like to get off by doing it. Their bratting is innocent, curious, and playful, much like a child or a teen would brat. And they're looking for attention, as I've already described. The third type of brat you're likely to run into is a challenging brat. These women also do it for the fun and get off by it, but the difference is they want you to fight them or overcome them. Think like two animals wrestling for dominance. And they're most likely to test you to get a rise out of you. They want to be challenging you. Sometimes you might hear these type of brats called smart-ass masochists because they usually want you to exert physical force over them or pain as a punishment. And the last type of brat that you're not as likely to run into, but it may happen occasionally, is not actually a brat at all. It's just somebody that's disrespectful. There are a few select women that will hijack the term brat in order to just be blatantly disrespectful, either with words of vitriol and hate or testing your every step along the way. My advice here is just draw a hard line and don't tolerate being disrespected. Now, just like you as the dom have unique desires and needs, your brat is going to have unique desires and needs that they want fulfilled. The difference with a brat is just don't be confused about how they're going about asking for it. Just because they're being bratty in the way they want to tell you they have a need doesn't mean that they don't have the need behind it. So now that you sort of understand brats a little bit, let's talk about how to tame them. By this point, you might be thinking, brats sound kind of difficult. Can I just ignore the behavior or ignore them? While this could be a strategy, it kind of misses the point for the brat. Ignoring is often a strategy that's used for correcting a child's behavior that's acting out. Ignoring misbehavior in a child can be very effective because the misbehavior is usually done for attention, and the child usually doesn't understand their choice. A brat also misbehaves for attention, but unlike a child, they are almost always aware of what they're doing. They're purposely acting out in order for you to meet their need for attention in a very specific way. So ignoring their behavior actually violates the entire purpose of the dynamic between a brat tamer and a brat. You engaging them, even when they're difficult, especially when they're difficult, gives them the love and attention and affection and care that they're seeking. So the general rule of thumb for taming a brat is to figure out the motivation behind their bratting behavior and the need that they're seeking to have fulfilled. Then two, since you're in control as the dom, you get to decide how you would like to fulfill that need. If your brat has had a playful transgression, then you may wish to give a punishment in the way they wish to receive it. This is often known as a punishment. If it's a serious transgression and corrective behavior is called for, then you may wish to give a punishment that is actually punishing for the brat, oftentimes not in the way that they were hoping you would punish them. The third option is if you don't want to fulfill their need, then you need to say so. Remember, this entire dynamic is supposed to be fun. So if you're really not feeling it that day, then you can easily squash it and save it for another day. What this should highlight to you is you're not just bending to your brat's will because they're throwing a temper tantrum. You're still in the driver's seat and you still get to choose how you're going to respond to their behavior. They can throw a fit, struggle, and test you all they want. You're still in control. Now let's talk about some extra mindsets for brat taming. Every brat is going to be different. You'll approach them in the general process I just gave earlier, and then discover what's unique to your brats and how you want to brat tame. With that said, there are some general mindsets that are going to help smooth the process. First is to earn their respect. This is pretty much foundational 101 for a dom, that your submissive needs to respect you, but it's especially important for a brat. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to need to pass a bunch of tests from the brat. In my experience, if you're showing up as the best dom that you could be in that moment, oftentimes the tests are non-existent. You're not getting challenged all the time. The second mindset is to dig deeper. It's not wise to take a brat at face value. In fact, they may just be fucking with you for the fun of it. So you have to get inside their head, figure out what they truly want and who they truly are under the bratty facade. The third one, which is really important, is to not overreact. If you're easily offended, you have an inflated ego, or you're easily walked over by other people, you're going to have a poor time with a brat. You can't just fly off the handle or get defensive when your brat starts misbehaving. You need to have a secure, strong sense of self, confidence, and backbone in order to handle a brat. Brat taming is basically the art of knowing your brat enough to say the right thing to put them in their place without being condescending. The fourth piece of advice is to know your enough is enough line. Every person has an energy balance that they're constantly maintaining. Depending on your brat and how much you enjoy brat taming, your brat constantly testing you is going to drain your energy. It's important for you to know when you've had enough and it's no longer fun for you in that moment. Remember, as a dom, you can also use safe words, and you can say when enough is enough in order to protect both of your guys' sanity. And then the last mindset is that the punishment should match the crime. Don't blow punishments out of proportion just because you're trying to get revenge on your brat for all their misbehavior. A little back talk doesn't warrant you locking them in a cage or something for 3 days. So let's talk about some brat taming punishment ideas. I'm just going to give you a few. This is far from exhaustive. And in fact, I recommend that you come up with your own punishments. They're going to be unique to you and to your brats, but these are going to give you some ideas. And in fact, the best brat tamers that I've met are usually pretty creative and witty individuals, and sometimes just a tad bit sadistic. So the go-to is always spanking, and that works for a lot of subs, except for the ones that are more masochist. You can use orgasm denial, forced silence, having them sit on a chair, sort of like timeout. You can do forced orgasms, clit spanking, bondage, tickling, tying them up for a while, putting them in a cage, having them take a cold shower, having them keep a strained or forced position, make them do push-ups, make them do boring chores, or make them write lines. These are just a few. I actually have a large list of punishment ideas and an article that I've written on punishments. I will leave a link to both of those below. But here's an example how a brat taming scenario might go. There was a time that I played with a brat who knew I didn't like my beard or my hair pulled. And as we were playing, she kept playfully saying how much she loved my hair and that she just wanted to pull it, to give it a tug. And after we had sex and we were cuddling, she reached over and yanked on my hair. I told her that she better stop, and she said, "Make me," the famous last words of any brat. So what I did was flipped her over, laid across her body so she couldn't get away, spanked her ass very hard, and then I fingered her past the point of orgasm until she couldn't take it anymore. All just to remind her who was in control. And then we cuddled together and I enjoyed the sweetest girl that could be. So that's a quick overview of how you can tame brats. I just want to reiterate the most important aspects are one, that you're figuring out what the reason is behind their behavior. What need are they trying to get fulfilled? And then two, they need to respect you as a dom. So if you are still in the process of developing your dominance and you need a little help and direction, I'm going to leave a link down below to my coaching. Check that out and I can help you to develop your dominance further so that you're showing up in a very confident way and able to actually handle a submissive like this. You can also check out the book that I just released, Enter the Dom, the No BS book on dominance. And if you're wondering exactly what it takes to be a dom, watch this video on the 7 essential behaviors of a good dom. Thank you so much for your time and attention.